Thank you very much, Chair, and very much welcome to the Minister here today as well. It was good to hear your speech. I suppose very much so the Climate Action Committee, I've been talking, I know they're meeting every single day, so there is huge work being done across all the parties here. I suppose I come from East Galway and Roscommon. I come from an area that really has the traditional industries minister, you know, Bord-na-Mona, Ballinasloe would be like 10 kilometres from Shannon Bridge, and of course Lanesborough up there as well. So it's really an area that has been affected. When we talk about bringing everyone with us, that is such an easy phrase to say, but it means an awful lot, because a lot of people, I suppose, are getting left behind a little bit. What was fantastic was the Just Transition Fund, the funding that came into those particular regions to support other types of income in the area. So, for example, there's been funding for remote working hubs, for ecotourism, and all of that is so crucial. But it is important that we need to look at what other sort of off-farm incomes can we support. And I was very happy to hear about the 350 jobs as well that were supported in terms of the peat rehabilitation. If I might also just speak to the farming element, and I come from a farming background, and my dad was a small dry stock farmer and would have been part of REPS, the Rural Environmental Protection Scheme, and also most recently with GLOS. And there's a small section of a field that we're growing, you know, the natural broadleaf, you know, the oaks and the ash and so on. But it is very important that in CAP we are looking at supporting those smaller farmers, particularly with the environmental measures. And farmers are at the heart of it. You know, farmers are the ones that are looking after the land, that are maintaining the fields to ensure that we will, you know, that we have the hedgerows and so on. So I do think that they are at the heart of it. And we see through Teagasc as well that that is the research arm, really, of the Department of Agriculture. And they've been doing great work in terms of the less technology, you know, the low emission slurry spreading, and about how we can work together to reduce actually our emissions. And I know that it's been mentioned about the genetics and so on of our breeds. There's so much that farming can do, and we need to be making sure that farming and agriculture is part of the solution. Because it is a vocation, like many things, like teaching and nursing, and some would say, I suppose, public life. Farming is a vocation. It is something that people, you know, it's part of our communities, and they're the backbone of our towns and villages, and there has to be a sustainable way for farmers going forward. In terms of off-farm income, I suppose I might mention the greenways, and again, very happy to see the 50 million in active travel, particularly for walking and cycling. The greenway, the Dublin to Galway one, at the moment it's under consultation, and they're going to be looking at 5 routes, and this is from Athlone to Galway City. I'm very much hoping that it might pass by my own hometown. So we're really, you know, fighting hard for that. And I can see the importance of greenways in terms of Dungarvan and up in Westport and in Achill and Mayo. You see how much off-farm income is generated through ecotourism. So I very much support that, and I really look forward to seeing, I suppose, more investment in counties to develop spurs off these national infrastructure, this national infrastructure that will be happening. Just in terms of your comments on public transport, yes, public transport. I've been squashed like a lemon on trains from Galway to, you know, Athenry and stuff, trying to get back to Ballinasloe. It is wonderful to have that as a service. I know many people would have travelled from Ballinasloe to Dublin and work their day and come back, pre-COVID I'm speaking now. You know, it's not feasible. A lot of people are driving 20 miles to get to the train station in Ballinasloe, for example, or they drive to Athlone because there's more frequent services. The services and the infrastructure in trains and so on, that has to be upped. Éireann Rud Éireann, our Irish Rail, have spoken so long about this. So I suppose I would like to hear a little bit more about what investment is going to happen in terms of Irish Rail, and also that there's so many villages where buses just don't go. Services, obviously now in the time of COVID, has been reduced. But how are we going to provide services to towns to even access, like you say, very important parts of our, you know, like hospitals, like getting to work, like getting to school. You know, people can't get to the hospital in Ballinasloe unless they drive. There is no public transport options for older people. I would love to see that, but it doesn't exist currently. So I do think that it's really important when we come from a regional point of view to consider that. In terms of just the local authorities, we do get a lot of income now coming from the wind farms, and particularly the offshore wind farm I'd be very interested in. I do think we do need these forms of income coming into our local authorities that are starved of income, I suppose, at the moment. But I would like to see local authorities investing more in biodiversity officers and protection of biodiversity habitats. I suppose I see from an own community group that I'm part of in Ballinasloe, we fought and went to the High Court 2 2 years ago to fight in the Habitats Directive because of the impact of a development in low-lying floodplains of our local rivers. So, you know, we were fighting about the water quality and about that impact, and that isn't been done by our local authorities, I suppose. So I would see that there's a role of local authorities there to protect biodiversity and habitats. So I would be very interested in the development of habitats and how we are protecting our biodiversity. In that particular location, we had the only sightings of the only European protected butterfly. The marsh fritillary is in that area, along with the food plant. And again, this is along our bogland areas that would have been the previous linking in along the Grand Canal to Bord and Mona boglands. So it is about developing and protecting those habitats. But what investment are we putting into local authorities to do that? I suppose those are some of my points, Minister. I mean, it is exciting times. I think cross-party, we all know that we have to do our best when it comes to climate change, but it is very much so about bringing people with us, and that in regional areas there's a lot more challenges than there would be in urban city centres, and I suppose that really needs to be taken into consideration. Thank you very much.